Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 265, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Dracologist.
And another wonderful show here with the three of us here. We've been wanting to explore some other shows in history that kind of have gotten the, like, hey, that ended poorly, let's give it another try kind of treatment here. So I'm kind of like, these shows get a second chance. So last week we extensively talked about Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks actually got a third shot. As did Evangelion, we talked about that as well recently. Evangelion is basically just wrapping up its third shot at an ending, at getting a satisfying ending. And what else were we talking about? Oh, Dexter. Dexter had one of the most poorly accepted endings of like a TV show that I've heard.
It was just dumb. It was just dumb. At this point, I would say Game of Thrones hands down has the
absolutely
most poorly accepted endings because the writers just actively stopped caring.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. It's like that kind of like that story you were always told by guidance counselors back in like high school, like if you're a senior and you start to get Fs or because you don't care anymore after you've
don't
been
get
accepted.
complacent just because you got good SAT scores.
Yeah, the college will know what your scores are, so you better not screw it up for yourself. So that was like basically exactly what happened with Game of Thrones. They
killed the goose that laid the golden eggs.
Yeah, and then like Disney was like, hell, if we're gonna give you millions of dollars to screw up the next one, fuck you. So. Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones.
Leave it to the people we already paid to screw up our next one.
Well, the cool thing about Game of Thrones, I guess, the silver lining of it all is that they can do that series over again when the books are done, if that ever happens.
God.
But
well, yeah, there is stuff like that. Like for one of my big examples I was thinking of for shows that got a second try or real ending was Hellsing. Because the anime series, like the TV series, was 13 episodes. It kind of followed the manga pretty decently to a point. They didn't touch the Nazis, but it generally followed what happened until there was an obvious point where it started to deviate, and the ending was its own thing, and people were like, that was kind of a not great final boss and ending, but the manga wasn't finished yet. And then the manga finished, and they released Ultimate Hellsing, which was more accurate, and it was better animated because it was 10 OVAs instead of a TV series. And it was just a more compelling story and an overall better product, and people loved it.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of the Gantz series, where like the first season was pretty damn accurate. The first series that they did. Yeah. But and it was so popular, of course, that it had a different season, but it had caught up to the manga at that point, and it was just like the manga goes in like all kinds of crazy directions, and also has I should clarify this before that the second season of the anime is basically just worthless because it's basically just filler the anime. They aren't on a mission most of the time, and they're just kind of has like drama in between like what was happening, and it's like who cares about that, and then it just ends with a like stupid ending. The very 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 end of it was actually like made sense. It was like very kind of similar to Cowboy Bebop in a way.
Well, the very 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 end of it is arguably better than the manga ending.
Yeah, I was about to get to it. The actual manga, the real ending of it is just like,
thanks for that.
Thank you. Like you didn't actually. They didn't actually explain some of the greater themes and like
even some of the main questions we have from the beginning. Oh, and you know what else there was? There was Berserk. The Berserk 90s series was fantastic, but after the Eclipse, it like time skipped back to like present day,
Yeah.
where you have no idea how Guts got out of the eclipse. The ending was good enough. Like, he's gonna go on more adventures. We just don't see what they are. We've wrapped up what we did see.
Basically, the Dreamcast game picks up after that.
No, it does not. The Dreamcast is a complete side story. The PS2 game picks up after that.
Oh, the PS2 game.
But the anime, like, it has enough of an ending. Like, he walks off into the sunset, but like, how did he get out of the eclipse though? That was a little weird. But then they made another Berserk series in the 2010s with a terrible budget, and it looks like shit, but it continues the story for once.
I just don't understand how that show was ever made, because like you take one of the most beloved, like the way that manga is drawn is like especially why people like it. And you make an anime that just like looks cheap and terrible. Like that's ridiculous.
Now they did get 3 gorgeous looking CG OVAs, but they just retold the story that we've already seen, except it showed what happened with the eclipse.
But yeah, there have been plenty of others. I kind of wanted to go over it because like this kind of all like pretty much started with like the Incredible Hulk, like back in the 70s. Like they basically ended it, and then like it had like a couple television movies to like end the story. It's actually kind of funny that like this kind of thing has been going on for a while.
Oh yeah, actually, well, now that you mention that, this is a little different. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer got like season 8 in comic book form.
Well, not only that, but the show is like a reboot of the movie that was unsatisfactory. So
you know what the show was missing though was Paul Rubens.
You know what? That was really great. And in fact, I still use that GIF.
Ever put to film.
Yeah, I still use that GIF pretty frequently. That
for what? That GIF takes forever.
Well, I like when anybody ever talks about vampires, I put up that GIF.
What, his Paul Rubens dying?
Yes,
because it's the funniest shit. Oh, and he just kicks the wall a couple times really lightly. It's a riot. He just let him do whatever he wanted.
Paul Rubens, like just showing up is like one of my favorite things. In 30, his appearance in 30 Rock is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Have you ever seen that episode, Lotus?
I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes of 30 Rock.
That is the episode to watch. Like if you don't like, just go back and just watch that episode. You don't need to watch anything else. Like it's that good. And you'll know why. Like his episode is very clearly like just so good, like nothing could ever touch it. Okay. It's like kind of like that episode of The Office where they're having like the fire drill. Like it's just so funny that like, what else could you do? Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of other shows have kind of gotten this treatment lately, and gotten a chance to sing like after being canceled. I mean, the first high profile one in the times of streaming, you know, of a show that ended on its network run and then like didn't know it was going to get a revival was Arrested Development. I think that's the first time I've ever heard of something like that ever happening.
It finally came back
times.
on Netflix, but the problem was season 4 was poorly put together, and they eventually like re-released it in a more watchable state.
Yeah, and recut it actually. When they recut it, it actually feels like the old show.
Yeah, it felt better. And season 5, I never finished. It was mediocre. Like, it had its moments, but it was mediocre.
See, Arrested Development is like one of my favorite shows of all time. So like, I watched a part of the 4th season and then didn't watch back because like the first 3 seasons were just perfect. Like they didn't need anything else. Season
3 came to a hasty conclusion, and the show directly called it out during the time.
Yeah, but that was okay for the tone of the show.
Yeah,
you know, like it kind of wrapped up like where it needed. It kind of had a really kind of like stupid ending on purpose, and that was okay. Like I mean, they even had like jumping the shark earlier that season.
They literally jumped the shark in that show, just like
with Henry Winkler,
Henry Winkler jumped the shark literally twice and in different ways. It's incredible.
It was really, really fucking good.
I didn't even catch it when I first saw it.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people did, but like, goddamn, was that funny?
Oh, one other thing I like to point out, by the way, 2 more anime series. One of them, I don't know if you call this a second chance or what, but Dragon Ball Z, way later.
I would say that. I would say it gets a second chance.
It got Dragon Ball Z Super, which is like a more accurate sequel series than like GT, which nobody cared for. And it just got more and more over the top. And I should also mention...
say even Kai kind of like...
Well, yeah, Kai was like a redemption of the original DBZ anime series, because they cut out like the bullshit.
Yeah. It's much more accurate to the manga.
That's true, too. One thing I should also mention is, like Hellsing, where it went with its own ending, because that's all it could do, and then it eventually went the manga way, Fullmetal Alchemist did its own thing, and it was actually a very good show. People liked the original version too, but eventually they released Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which was manga accurate, and that's also good. So you have 2 good versions of Fullmetal Alchemist.
I love it when that happens. Like,
it's rare,
you
but
just
it's
get 2
fun.
good ones.
Yeah, I'll take it. That's what I was hoping Game of Thrones the show would be. I was hoping the show would be good, and then I'll have the books, and then I'll have both. But season 8 just shit the bed.
Yeah, it's really a shame. You could really just watch it without that last season, or last half season, really.
Yeah, season 8 was like 6 or 8 episodes or something.
Yeah.
You could watch it without probably seasons like 7 or 8. Even 5 and 6, you're starting to notice a little bit of a downward turn, but it's still... Well, season 6 is Battle of the Bastards, so you could definitely watch that.
Yeah, and like we said before, Evangelion has ended 3 times at this point, which I think is pretty crazy.
Oh,
but
actually,
hopefully this is it.
Here's one. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because they made part 3, the OVAs, but then a scandal. We've talked about this before, so I'll just make this very brief. A scandal got the DVDs pulled pretty quickly after the release and actually killed the company that made them. That's the only thing they ever made. So JoJo, I mean, the manga kept going in Japan, but it effectively died in the West for like a decade. And then finally, in 2012, the anime starting from Phantom Blood happened. So Japan got a JoJo anime again, and America got JoJo at all again. And it's, well, I mean, we got All-Star Battle for PS3, but like, the anime was what really got people's attention, and it's still going to this day. It's been nearly a decade.
Yeah, and I also think about some sitcoms that have kind of done this. So, like notably in recent times, you have Roseanne, which ended.
Oh yeah, it came back as like the family's last name, right?
So,
like
it's
the
more
Johnsons
complicated
or whatever
than
the name
that.
was.
It's the Connors. But it's more complicated than that. So in the original show, the last season was very odd. Like people it was funny and it wasn't bad, but it was odd because what had happened at the end of the penultimate season was that the family won the lottery.
Yeah.
And they were famous for the family was famous for being the blue collar family on television. That's who they were.
So I think I kind of defeated like the
entire premise of the show. Yeah. And at the very last episode, they basically said that the entire last season was a fantasy season.
Yeah.
And based on the fact that the original episode of Roseanne, like her kids had given her a notebook to write things down in, to possibly like get finally get her writing itch to get going, and the last season was her writing a happy ending for her family, where supposedly John Goodman's character had died of a heart attack.
It's like a shocking downer of a turn for the end of the show.
Exactly. So the entire they said that the character had reinvented their current state in order to give themselves a happy ending, and people were kind of like a little more than a little miffed at that. And anytime you do, it was an all a dream.
Yeah.
People get upset, noticeably so because
I invested myself in this and it wasn't real.
Exactly. You want the stakes to be like actually real. You want to fear that these characters may lose something, and you also don't want to take for granted what you're seeing is truth. And what they did with they rebooted the show and basically said, hey, that whole last season's premise didn't even happen, and John Goodman's character is still here.
Yep.
So just like completely wrote it off, and then what happened was Roseanne said some bad things on Twitter.
Not Roseanne, like the character, like real life Roseanne Barr.
So they killed her with opioids in the show and rebooted it again as the Connors without her.
Yeah, Roseanne of Roseanne is not in Roseanne.
It has everybody else in it.
You're like, well, the show's dead, but in this case, like, no,
it's still a popular show.
It's better off without her. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I can't think of too many instances where like something that drastic has happened. Yeah.
But by the way, I have a video game version. We've talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
Saga. It came back with the restored contents. Like they brought it back. Even Resident Evil 1 remake, like Lisa Trevor was cut content. They brought her quote back into the game. I mean, it never felt like she was missing from the PS1 version, but like she's back though.
To some degree, you can even say that about Mass Effect. Mass Effect
Legendary
3
Edition.
Well, more like they amended the ending, like.
Oh yeah.
Like only a little while after it had released, because like people were that upset about it. Yeah. People are still upset, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, Will and Grace kind of did the same thing that Roseanne did. Like the last episode, people were like, "Oh, that's terrible. Why'd you do that?" Mm-hmm. So they just brought it back, saying, "Oh no, that last episode just didn't fucking happen." Like it, and I have a feeling that's the way it's going to be with Dexter. It's just like, no, that last episode just didn't fucking happen.
But if the last episode didn't happen, then what did happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do you know what happened in the last episode?
All I know is he just like fucked off to the woods, and that was it.
Yeah. So if that didn't happen, I mean, I guess he could be back in his hometown, but that doesn't have to be the case. They could have him just still be in the woods. Like, it's still a dumb ending, but there's more that you could do with him.
There's also talk of True Blood coming back as well, because people got dissatisfied with that towards the end of that, because that show just goes off the rails. Because like it turns out it's not just vampires that are real, but basically every fantasy character is real, and you just didn't realize it. Like there are fairies, there are like there's everything, everything you can think of.
Interestingly, like in Vampire the Masquerade, fairies actually exist.
Oh, curious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've never played it, so I thought it was just vampires.
I kind of like, gradually introducing stuff like that, so that there's still some wonderment, like kind of like it with Guts, with Berserk. No, there are actual fairies. You just didn't know they were here. Even though there is clear magic and demons going around, there's also like kind of forces of good as well.
Well, I mean, Puck is in chapter 1.
Yeah, but like you only see him, so you kind of don't have a concept. He's the odd one out. Yeah,
that is true. It takes a while before you learn that like Nosferatu, Zod, and therefore demons exist. And then the eclipse happens, and then they're like, all right, you know what? Fairy tales are just a thing across the board. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look back at, like, Young Guts and stuff like that, like, there's not much supernatural up, for a while.
Yeah, there's, like, allusions to magic. Like, Judo's like, I have some fairy dust, and boy, this is rare, but I'm only use it for the most special of occasions. And then, yeah, later on, it's just, like, mayhem.
It's kind of like that in Game of Thrones as well. It's just like there are brief glimmers of magic, and then that's it. And then, but the boy doesn't, come back. It's one of those things.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and dragons. They push them a little bit.
Basically, zombies.
Well, zombies are in episode 1 and chapter 1.
Yeah, but you don't think. But they're different zombies. They're like magic zombies later on. like people that actually are getting brought back to life and all that stuff too.
We witnessed. Yeah, there was that one knight, like Don Darrion. He's been brought back like multiple times.
Yeah,
it's like I think I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna be able to do this to this guy. It's like, oh jeez.
Another one that has also kind of persisted like this, which you may not think of, but like, oh wait, the X-Files has gotten several times.
Wasn't the movie supposed to be like a redemption of the show?
So here's the thing: the X-Files has ended 4 times.
Okay.
Well, no, I should say 3 times. Okay, so the first movie happens during the show.
Okay.
So that is not considered an ending. But the show ends, of course, and kind of has they've never really ended giving you the answers that you've wanted, because that's kind of the whole thing about the show.
The slogan is "the truth is out there, not it's in here."
Yeah, more like, you're never gonna get it.
I don't mind the show not wrapping up in a neat little bow, because again, it defeats the purpose. The truth is out there. Like, keep watching the skies.
Yeah, and so the second movie, everybody was like, oh, they're finally going to answer, what actually happened with Mulder's sister, and no, they don't even address it.
Huh. Well,
and then they bring back the show for a season basically out of time all of a sudden. And they still don't give you everything that you wanted. So, I mean, I think it's just kind of supposed to be like that. It's just like, you're always supposed to be having a hanging question about whether the government is really trying to fuck with you, or the aliens are real, or it's some kind of weird combination of the two. They want you to keep guessing that, and I think that's like a real like parable to like real life. Like you don't always know what's going on. You just make you make your own reality in your head, to some degree.
Sometimes stories need some satisfactory closure.
I agree.
Too much loose. If you leave too many loose ends, your story going to look like an octopi.
Well, no, that's true. Like, I'm okay with saying we weren't able to find out, instead of just not talking about it. Like, they forgot to write about it.
Yeah, I always got the feeling with X-Files that they didn't actually have a real arc that they wanted to finish. Like, that it just wasn't there. The show is really just a vehicle for Monster of the Week kind of stuff that they wanted to tell, which is fine.
Were the better. The main story often was like a little bit tripe.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, like, Monster of the Week is something that I wish we had sometimes. Mandalorian has some of that quality. Which is something that I really like. It's just like, what are we facing today? It doesn't necessarily, you get a little snippet of meta plot being resolved, in every episode, but like it's more about the micro stories. It's about the individual stories of of what's happening in each episode, and I think that really works with the Star Wars format, because like you could do so much with all the different planets and all that kind of stuff, and all the different mythologies going on within it. It's just one of those things. I mean, talk about that with Star Wars too. Like they've ended that 3 times. And I mean, people complained about the first time they ended. Yeah, it's worse and worse each time.
Even in the original trilogy, like they had dumbass writing decisions in there.
Yeah, people complained about Return of the Jedi even back then.
Yeah. One thing I should also point out, you have one of these things that... No, never mind. You have both of them on the list. Yeah, Venture Brothers and Metalocalypse, we've talked about this before. They both ended prematurely, but they're both going to get movies that give them the opportunity to wrap the story up. So I'm pleased to see that we can get a conclusion.
Yeah, and this was actually kind of cool. Something like DuckTales, from our childhood never got like an official ending, and the new show ran for 3 successful seasons, and they just like ended it and gave it an ending,
sure.
Which is really cool because back in the day, syndicated kids cartoon shows rarely ever got a season like a series finale. They just didn't. They were there to sell you the merchandise they were pimping or whatever, or they had a gigantic order of 50 episodes for one season and just played them in syndication forever, and hopefully you didn't notice that there was an overall plot.
I remember, like, I randomly caught an episode of the animated series Jumanji on TV, and it happened to be, like, the final episode, which had an ending, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, shows have endings?
Yeah, I mean, like, Mighty Max fame, for anybody who knows that show, had actually, like, a good ending, and it sets you up for it to be syndicated, because it's just a loop.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. But those are few and far in between. I mean, Animaniacs got an ending. It got like a movie that ended it, and that got rebooted. Even after that, we are currently in the midst of a revival of Animaniacs, which is quite good, by the way.
I know cartoon shows that had proper closures.
Oh, what's that?
Let's see. I think what was it called? Centurions was one. Kaijudo was one.
What was that last one?
Kaijudo.
Yeah, I don't know Kaijudo.
It's a surprisingly interesting show. Do you know Duel Masters?
No, I don't.
Duel Masters was this comedy knockoff of Yu-Gi-Oh! They basically did a Yu-Gi-Oh! Show with just basically riffing on the cartoon, the anime.
I think I've heard the name, but I didn't know it was a comedy.
And Kaijudo is basically using the same. They use the same alternate world, but they use the real world in a far more realistic, far more interesting setting.
Okay. Well, there's also been a few others with Nickelodeon as well that they came back and gave proper endings to. Like, they did it with Rocko's Modern Life, and that actually turned out really, really well. Did you have the chance to see Rocko's Modern Life revival?
Is it still not child friendly?
Oh, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
I almost never use Netflix.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think I've used it like twice.
Okay. Well, they gave a really satisfying ending to Rocko's Modern Life, because they kind of ended on a downer note. Talk about like shows that got an actual ending on Nickelodeon. Like he just like blasts off into space, and like Rocko is just in space, and then that's the end. But yeah,
actually regarding cartoon shows that got a comeback, I somehow forgot about this, but Samurai Jack, because like that series was mostly episodic, but how does it end though? And then they finally released the last season, which was, what was it, like 10 episodes or something, where they actually concluded the series.
And they also ramped up the they obviously were making it for adults at this point, so they
were allowed to use blood now.
More mature version.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
All series had its kind of hijinks moment, but
the old series had its share. The old series had its share of violence, but it was always like robots. It was always oil instead of blood.
That first episode is like just full of robot violence.
Yeah, where he cuts like a million robots and he's drenched in their not blood. Like, you could tell what that was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was definitely like Akira Kurosawa, like Kill Bill-esque, fountains of oil coming out.
There was one episode in the normal series where he's reminiscing about his childhood and where he met basically the equivalent of wolf and cub. There is like this kid and his samurai goes on it, and he's like peeking out of his father's, what is it called? The Palakin, I think. Palakin.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that one.
and there is a fight between like this old samurai and this bandits, and like there is just this moment of like basically there's this flash of a sword. They cut to the little Jack sitting on the palanquin, jumping back from
I have seen that. Yes.
Peeking out, and it just your face is covered with blood, and it's like, oof.
Yeah. I don't think I recognized that was supposed to be a wolf and cub thing, but I do know what the scene you're talking about.
Well,
and the dad just comes back in like a badass, like, don't worry about it, kid, let's keep going. He's like, what?
Oh yeah, sorry, wasn't Tiger and Cub, it was his father.
Yeah, his father just killed the shit. Yeah, so that, it wasn't wolf and cub, his father just killed the shit out of some bandits.
There was also Invader Zim got the same treatment that Rocko's Modern Life did, and so did Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold always had a question of like what happened to his parents. I believe that was finally addressed as well. So, but I didn't get a chance to see either of those. I really should watch the Invader Zim like movie, because that show did end. It kind of like it had a pretty satisfying conclusion, I would say. Like, it wasn't like, it wrapped things up for what was happening at that moment. Like, not for good, but like just what happened, and it was like good enough. So I was excited to see Invader Zim come back at least. So I haven't had a chance to go back to Netflix and take a look at that.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about this. Futurama ended twice.
Oh yeah,
and
three
both...
times actually.
3 times?
Yeah, because the show and then the movies and then the show again.
Oh, I forgot the movies existed. That's right. But yeah. Like both show endings were fantastic, actually. Like the second one was more conclusive, but the first one, with like the
it was
opera,
a good ending as it stood. Yeah.
Yeah, like very, very good, and fantastic musical number too. The Robot
actually,
Devil is just always fun.
Robot Devil. Who knew? Hell exists, and it's in New Jersey.
It's in New Jersey. They're very good hands.
The gold violin sounds like shit.
Yeah, wouldn't that just play terribly and like be hard to wield? Like, yeah, it's mostly for show. Yeah, what if the loser gets? The loser gets a smaller silver fiddle. And I get to kill one of you. Him. It's like, this sucks.
Futurama is one of my favorite shows ever. I think that the movies are actually the weak point of the series.
Although I love the name of one of the movies, An Allusion to Othello, the Beast with 2 Backs. It's the Beast with like 1,000 or 1,000,000 backs or something.
Yeah, a million backs.
You can't just write your characters by having them directly express what they're saying. That makes me feel angry.
But yeah, I do like the show actually was just as good when it came back. Some of the post reboot episodes are freaking classics. So
yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Any other ones that you wanted to mention before we wrap that and move on to fan stuff?
That like I'm trying to think of like specifically like unsatisfying endings or non-endings that got another chance, because there's been tons of shows that like got rebooted for nostalgia, like He-Man or She-Ra. It's like, let's do it again, only not make it suck this time.
Yeah, but like I'm not talking actual
even if you don't
reboots,
like it, like anything's better than old He-Man.
I'm more like we kind of want to do like revisionist history, or like, hey, let's get another shot at this kind of thing,
Yeah.
I know that Santa Clarita Diet like ended on a cliffhanger, so people really badly want to see that picked up somewhere.
Oh, actually, I can tell you one thing. This is not actually coming back, but the writer came out and said what the intent was. So people were still satisfied. Do you remember the show, My Name is Earl?
Okay, yeah.
Because the whole thing in that show, it was mostly episodic, but Earl was a piece of shit, like, before the episode started, or before the series started, and kind of during the series. So at some point, like, I think he was getting bad karma anyway, and he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to undo this. And he, like, made this giant list of just every person he's just pissed off, or like every bad thing he's done, and each episode he tries to like right that wrong and like make up. Like it's like in Billy Madison, that one scene where he calls Steve Buscemi and he's like, I was an asshole to you in high school, I'm sorry. Like, that's the entire show of My Name is Earl, but like it never got a real ending. But eventually the creator of the show said what the ending would have been, which was awesome, because I think Earl, like, I forgot if he finished his list or what, but like, he didn't get hit with immediate good karma or anything, but what he realized that was, like, the people he'd been talking to thought that what he was doing was a good idea, so, like, everybody else was making their own lists of things to correct, so the goodness was just, like, spreading across the town, and therefore more and more as people were like, I should also do this. So it's, like, it's satisfying in that regard. So we're never going to see that show, but we know. Oh, and you know what? I have one more, which this is a weird one to bring up. This is a weird one. The Gorillas. And I don't mean them coming back. I don't mean them coming back. What I mean is, do you remember that one YouTube video they had of a music video they never did? Rhinestone Eyes, where they showed you the storyboard, and then that one fan just took it upon themselves to make, like, not Gorillaz level CG, but really damn good, though.
That looks good enough.
CG of the Rhinestone Eyes, like, so we got to see what that video would have been from, like, a fan's perspective, and the Gorillaz posted on the video, and the post was just, like, a fist aiming at you emoji, like a fist bump. Yeah, and everybody like flipped their shit when they saw that. It's
basically like unofficially endorsing it.
Yeah, like good job, buddy. Yeah, so like a fan restored the Lost Gorillas video. Like that's we got to see one more video for Plastic Beach, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Plastic Beach.
Yeah, like hey, look at that.
That was a really weird time because I think basically Gorillaz like almost disintegrated around that time. Like the whole concept of it, and now that YouTube is such a viable a place for music to thrive.
Yeah, now this is how they release their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like Weird Al released a music video literally for every single track on his last album, one at a time on YouTube.
And the Gorillaz have been doing that with their Song Machine.
Yeah, there is a video for every single song on that album, which is brilliant.
And they get to get away with it because they don't have to release it as an album. Like, one track will come out when it's ready, the next track will come out when it's ready, and it also works like the same way they're doing with The Mandalorian and The Boys, where like they're bringing back old school episodic content where you have to wait for the next one so people can talk about it. They don't just binge it and it's gone. So like this actually can potentially work out to their advantage.
Agreed. I think that's kind of the way to do it. A lot of TV shows are like that now. It's just like it'll come out when it's done. We're working on it, but it'll come out when it's done. So yeah, that's the right way it should be.
It's not every year. Like Stranger Things, even. Like I think the next season's gonna be like 2022 or 2023 or something.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be longer than we thought. But like I'm okay with this.
Yeah,
if it is the last one, I'm okay with that too. Season 3 really could have been the end.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen 2 and 3 yet, so I kind of need to catch up on that.
I think I like 3 more than 2. 2 was fine. 3 went in an interesting direction, though, for sure.
1 is just so good.
1 is clearly the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because it's a standalone.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll wrap up from there, unless either of you have anything else that you want to mention real quick.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's move on to fan stuff then.
Okay.
All right.
So for comments, we have Living Corpse, who left a few. This is when we were talking about like prequel syndrome. It's kind of hard to have a prequel have weight unless it's something like a tragic story where you're playing someone who becomes a villain in the main game, and you start to feel sorry for them when you just thought that they were evil before, but there's perspective. Yeah, that's fair. You could definitely do something with that, especially if you didn't even know that they were that character. Also mentions, I heard the rebuild of Eva films took so long that they switched from Type 90 tanks to the newer Type 10 tanks between films, because that's the latest tank in the Japan Self-Defense Force in real life. Wow. That's
funny.
when you know it's been a while. It's like if you play 428 Shibuya Scramble, everyone's using like flip phones because the game's a decade old, and you're like,
or
what is this?
or Robin is on that milk carton like overnight.
Yeah. It's only been
overnight.
like 30 minutes, but it's been like months. It's great. Yeah, cute little wink. And then this is a comment I definitely remember. I like that Wesker got his ass kicked by Alexia in the first version of Code Veronica. What's scarier than Wesker? Someone that overpowers him so much they scare him. Because, yeah, in Code Veronica X, it's still, like, Wesker's the coolest. So he's, like... Alexia, like, uppercuts him, I think, and he lands on his feet. And then she shoots fire at him, and he's, like, dodging it and everything. He's like, Chris, I'll leave this one to you. And he just walks out calmly. But in the original version, she just fucking duffs him when he lands on his ass. And he's like, what? And, like, that's way more impressive for Alexia herself.
I wonder why they would change that, because Wesker's
cool.
Yeah, I guess.
And maybe they anticipated RE4, I don't know. And then Fakafon says, funny to think that Twin Peaks inspired some of the Zelda stuff of all things. It's like being a cousin to Deadly Premonition. As for the... Yeah, Zelda is, incidentally. As for the games of genres I wouldn't play, same about sports games. They used to be cool, nonsensical fun. The realism, boring as fuck. Yeah, like, if you're really
They're too hard
sports,
to play now.
Yeah, if you're like a hardcore fan that you watch NFL and FIFA all the time, then I totally get the manager simulation activate, but I'm not one of those people, so I don't want that.
Yeah, I'm not really heavy into, like, it's even more stat driven than an RPG is. It's like, yeah, it's really crazy.
And then our question, Stranger Games says, out of the first 4 Silent Hill games, which had the best story and why? They all have their own unique charm when it comes to storytelling, but it seems that the most popular choice is Silent Hill 2. Yeah, it's kind of a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Like, Silent Hill 2, the story itself, I thought was okay. It's symbolic of his, like, tragic past. What was clever, though, was the manner in which the story was told. Like, the unreliable narrator and realizing that everything was symbolic of something. So, like, the execution, I think, is what people remember rather than the story itself. Silent Hill 1 was save your daughter from monsters. Like, that's what the story was.
Straight up.
Silent Hill 2, you, like, discover what you're playing, and that's what makes it interesting. Silent Hill 4, I think the premise stands out more than the rest, but the actual story is interesting, but it's more of a goal than the story, which is, like, prevent the 21 Sacraments ritual from being complete. It's just cool when you realize what's going on with Walter Sullivan and your apartment. So that's more story development, where Silent Hill 2 is more you remembering what you're even doing right now. Silent Hill 3, maybe 3 and 4, because Silent Hill 3 has a very interesting story in terms of development, and you're not even in Silent Hill at first, and then you go there, and it's a revenge mission, and you learn what's been going on, but that game also hopes that you played a previous entry in the series to better appreciate what's happening.
It doesn't stand on its own, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does, but, like, you should have played the other Silent Hill game that I will not specify. So it's kind of a tough call, because, like, for straight up story, maybe 3 or 4. But for premise, 4 hands down. For twists, 2 and 3 hands down. For execution, like, oh, you didn't even see this, you didn't even know what was going on, it's 2. So, like, straight up story is a tough call. It's like talking about the Souls games. The story is, like, threadbare. It's like the lore that's
it's about
interesting.
Direction. It's all about direction and vibe.
Ring the bells. Why? Because you got to kindle the fire. Okay, but it's more of learning about what had already happened. That's the real interesting part. So Silent Hill 2 is like that.
Yeah, I would. I mean, in Silent Hill,
though, like, interacting with them makes things help. Like, it makes things stand out when you see where they're going to. That's also impactful.
In Silent Hill fandom, basically most fans will tell you either 2 or 3 is their favorite, and
I'm one of them.
And it's hard to argue with that. I mean, 2 2 and 3 are both games that will go down as like some of the best horror games of all time, and 2 has a good chance of being the best horror game of all time, if you ask me.
But the thing was, though, like, what a lot of people don't seem to understand, including the fucking devs, and I don't mean Team Silence, because they do get it, but I mean people who picked up after that, Origins and onward, is that Silent Hill 2 isn't so brilliant because of what it is. It was so brilliant because it was one of the first of what it was.
It's very groundbreaking.
And now everybody tries doing the amnesia angle and the symbolism angle. It's like, well, I've already seen that done better in Silent Hill 2.
God, I hate when like you have a great setting and visual things and good monsters. Oh, it's just all symbolism for him, main character being a drunkard.
Yeah, like that was good the first time. You don't need to keep doing it because it doesn't.
Yeah, but it's also expected.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like Silent Hill 1, there was no symbolism. It's just we got monsters. Silent Hill 2 did the metaphor angle. Silent Hill 3 went back to story, but it gave you a wink at what might have been going on with the monsters. There was that, but it went in a bit of a more conventional direction. And then Silent Hill 4, which a lot of people didn't care for at the time because it felt so different, but like each of the games was different. Like, that's what made it work. They weren't just rehashing. But then when Western devs picked it up, Silent Hill Origins, Downpour, Homecoming, they're all fucking Silent Hill 2 again in different ways. Shattered Memories is probably the least fun to actually play, but it's by far the most original and clever with its storytelling.
I mean, this is why people were really, really excited for Silent Hills, because it looked like it was going to be something like completely different.
Yeah, Kojima didn't give a fuck about what Silent Hill 2 was. Like, look at PT. Assuming that was to be obviously it was not Silent Hills. They had an actual trailer for Silent Hills afterward, but like, if Silent Hills,
the themes explored in that were
I was gonna say, if PT
crazy.
was supposed to be even kind of a representation of Silent Hills, that would have been radically different. And like, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see the same game I already beat 4 fucking times. I want to see something that I don't expect. Even if I don't end up liking it, at least they tried something different.
I really hope Kojima's next game, whatever it may be,
is quote not Silent Hills.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least a horror game, because he has horror elements already built into his classics, but I think I would love to see him, not pun not intended, to take a stab at it. Like, I think I think he really has the chops to do a different genre, than what he's done. And I think, and there's plenty of horror elements in, Death Stranding and Metal Gear, but and Snatcher at that.
Scare you games, but yeah. Actually, I still remember this quote from Kojima regarding Silent Hills when he said, PT was supposed to be piss your pants scary. Silent Hills is going to be shit your pants scary. And it's like,
I believe him,
man.
I mean,
I would believe it. Like, they had Del Toro with him, so
that trailer was nuts.
And also PT was just, there's a reason why people don't want to let that go. It is a demo, but like, it is so good at what it does.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect, and like the kind of poor graphics for the time. I know it was something of a launch game, but like, that wasn't up to PS4 standards. But like, that was kind of the point, that it had that old kind of not quite right like effect, which
it almost had like a rendered background kind of feel for a lot of it, for a lot of the environment.
It's like how watching old film can kind of be a little creepy just because it's not what you're used to. A little old style, like the flickering.
Yeah, like the timing is off on the frames.
Like even when it was unintentional, when that was just the look, like Nosferatu, the silent movie, it's off-putting because it's all skipping and staticky. It's not static, but you know what I mean. It's got that little flickering kind of effect.
Film grain and scratches and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't think that was intentional. It's like, you're not supposed to have scratches on your film, but like, it enhances the movie though.
Yeah, it like the grime that exists on like the real. The real physical nature of the film actually accentuates what it's trying to do.
And even in modern horror, maybe not for a few years now, but they'll have creatures like static out and like they did it in The Ring, where she like, because she was like on the VHS tape, where like a little static came and she like skipped like toward like the victim. It's fucking off-putting. Like, you missed frames. Like, it's creepy as shit.
Yeah, agreed.
There are, I think these kind of elements were established in the, what was that movie? Jacob's Ladder, I think. No?
Oh, well, Silent Hill, yeah, that was... There were a couple of movies that inspired it, but Jacob's Ladder is, like, obviously one of them. If you ever go back and look for parallels... I did a video on it back in the day, which I can't put on YouTube because I have extended clips that get me copyright blocked, but Jacob's Ladder had a lot.
Absolutely.
Also,
in fact, even in the beginning of the movie, the subway he goes on, that's just straight up the Silent Hill 3 subway. He says he wants to get off at Bergen Street, the stop. I forgot if that's your actual destination in Silent Hill 3, but that's a place that exists. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's just direct parallels to Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3.
I'm curious, how familiar you are with Marble Hornets?
With what formats? Marvel?
Marble Hornets.
Oh, Marble Hornets. I know the name, but I don't know about what they're like.
It was one of the well-known, probably the progenitor of all the Slenderman sort of ARG stuff.
Yeah, in that case, I don't know about them. For a second, I thought you were talking about, like, actual hornets.
No. It's a video series. It's a video series about, like, college students making some sort of video movie collage for their something, and stuff gradually gets more, like, degraded. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've never touched any of that, but I get kind of what you mean. Stuff just gets more off-putting, or...
It's not like people say, like, considering, like, what the modern, like, the meme side of Slenderman is people kind of, like, off-putting, but the actual work that people actually care about are actually pretty good.
Okay.
Like, look up Marble Hornets, Tribe 12, and Everyman Hybrid. These are sort of interlocking stories.
Sure.
Well, I think we answered that question pretty darn well here.
As far as straight up storytelling, Silent Hill 2 for the discovery, Silent Hill 3 for, like, a straightforward story, and Silent Hill 4 maybe for the premise. Although I will admit, Silent Hill 2's premise is pretty good. I'm looking for my wife because I got a letter from her, which I got to admit is weird because she's been dead for a year, but I'll look into it, I guess. Like, that's a clever opening.
Yeah, I mean, really, the original 4 are all, like, unique and good in their own ways.
Yeah, I will say, I will give credit to Homecoming, though. Like, Homecoming is probably people's least favorite of the Western ones, but I gotta give it props for having the characters feel like people who matter, and for, like, the graphics are solid.
I trust you for that.
One of the dungeons is your own house. Like, there's way too much gore. Gore is not scary, gore is gory. And some of the monsters are, like, just Silent Hill 2 monsters. Like, they're, like, the first enemy in the game, like the straitjacket looking monster, is just back. It has a different aesthetic, but it's clearly the same thing. There's a monster that's, like, the first enemy in Silent Hill 3, like the closer.
Nurses are back, I'm sure.
Nurses from the movie are back. Miners from the movie are back. So you're like, some of the original monsters, though, the Schism is pretty awesome with, like, the split axe head. That's pretty cool. The bosses are fucking great. Like, as unoriginal as the enemies are, with a couple of exceptions, the bosses are amazing. So I like that too. The only one thing, though, that I thought was really not well thought out is that I think every Silent Hill game, except for, like, 4, has a joke ending. And in Homecoming, you can actually get the joke ending on your first playthrough. So, like, boy, would that sour your experience. Like, you're supposed to get that on a New Game Plus once you've gotten, like, whatever ending you get, like, that was serious business. But now that I'm not scared anymore, now that I know it's coming, I see it as a video game, and then you get a joke ending. But you could actually just accidentally get the joke ending in Homecoming immediately. Not immediately, but on the first playthrough, and it's like, well, then it makes your playthrough feel like a waste of time. So that was a dumb design choice. But otherwise, Homecoming has more positive points than I think people are willing to grant it. But yeah, 1 through 4 are like the real standout games. Shattered Memories is 2 for what it does with its story. Like, it does the Until Dawn thing before Until Dawn does, which is kind of amusing when you talk to the psychiatrist and see how that influences later parts of the game. That was very clever.
Kind of predictable, like, oh, I'm afraid of spiders. Guess what's going to happen next time?
Yeah, Until Dawn did that. Oh, there's a spider. Okay, but like, Shattered Memories did that in to some degree a relatively clever way. I mean, some of it's predictable as well, but it was still cool because it was the first time, and it was on the damn Wii. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, that game is better than people give it credit for, I think, too. Well,
yeah, and like the Otherworld segments get better with the later ones. The first ones just suck. It's just like run to exit. Like, all right, like they give you more to do, like with the later ones at least. So that's fair enough.
Well, do you guys have any other points that you want to make on the subject then?
I think I'm good.
Watch
the movie Jacob's Ladder too.
Yeah, seriously, it is Silent Hill 2, the movie.
Yeah, but also, well, Silent Hill. Yeah, it's mostly 2. Well, kind of. It's Silent Hill 1 and 2.
Silent Hill 1's ending, I guess. Yeah.
One of them, yeah, there is that. I've never seen the movie, but I've heard that Session 9 is also influential.
Oh, I need to check that out. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know how it's influential, except for maybe like a wheelchair motif or something. Which even Jacob's Ladder, like, it has the bicycle wheel, like in the beginning of Silent Hill 1. It does that, but Session 9 apparently also leans into that, but I don't know in what capacity. It's like how Clock Tower 1 was influenced by Suspiria, which I have seen, and I think it's called like Phenomena or something, which I have not seen. So there's some stuff going on that you can like pick up on.
Suspiria was the movie with the bees, right?
Suspiria was with the dance school with the witches, where like the opening kill is that girl like gets stabbed and falls through a stained glass window.
Yeah, stained glass window.
That's one of the early kills in Clock Tower. You're just like, oh my god.
Italian horror movies are surprisingly good sometimes.
Yeah, Suspiria is extremely artsy. The remake is apparently very good for different reasons.
Which is the best thing you can hope for.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, because if it's a straight-up remake, then why does it need to exist? So, but the first one is very vivid with its colors. It's a gorgeous movie.
Well, I think from there we can wrap things up.
Sure.
That's the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Thank you, Stranger Games. Thank you for keeping us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions every hour via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Was that the only one we got, Lotus?
We have one more.
Ooh, we still need more, though. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, at the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can find me as vysethebold on pretty much anything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in an exclusive live stream, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on Discord, Skype, and Steam under the name Dracologist, and on Twitch under the name Dracologist.
Wonderful. Well, we'll catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Good evening.